People who treat their pets like their children are often misunderstood. From the outside, it can look excessive, overprotective, even strange. Some people quietly judge, others openly criticize. They assume something is missing, that these people are lonely, or emotionally confused, or trying to replace something they don't have. But psychology tells a very different story. This behavior is not about confusion. It is not about denial. And it is not about pretending a pet is a human child. It is about where human nurturing instincts find a place to live. Caring is not a learned behavior. It is a biological one. Long before modern society existed, survival depended on caregiving, watching over vulnerable beings, protecting them, responding to their needs. This instinct does not disappear when we grow up. It does not shut off when we become independent, or when we choose different life paths. It waits. It looks for a place to express itself. For some people, that place becomes a pet, not because they lack something, but because pets activate caregiving in its purest, most uncomplicated form. Pets need help to survive. They depend on routine. They respond to consistency. Feed them, and they thrive. Ignore them, and they suffer. The cause and effect are clear. Psychologically, this mirrors one of the most fundamental human bonds, the caregiver relationship, but without the social pressure, without comparison, without judgment. This is why treating a pet like a child often feels natural rather than forced. Pets do not evaluate their caregivers. They do not criticize parenting styles. They do not compare homes. They do not measure success. Their needs are simple. Their responses are honest. This creates a relationship that feels emotionally safe. For the nervous system, safety is everything. Safety allows affection. Safety allows softness. Safety allows care without self-consciousness. Many adults do not experience this level of emotional safety in human relationships. With people, there are expectations, roles, unspoken rules. With pets, these layers disappear. You can speak gently. You can show affection openly. You can worry without embarrassment. This freedom is deeply regulating. From a psychological perspective, this resembles what is known as secure attachment, a bond where care is consistent, presence is reliable, and affection does not have to be earned. For many adults, this is the only relationship in their life that functions this way. This is not weakness, it is relief. Another reason people treat pets like children is routine. Modern life is fragmented. Work schedules change. Social structures are unstable. Communities are weaker. Many adults live without consistent rhythm. Pets reintroduce structure. They need to be fed at certain times, walked regularly, checked on. These small responsibilities anchor the day. They give shape to time. Psychologically, this matters more than we realize. Structure reduces anxiety. Routine calms the nervous system. Predictability creates a sense of control. When people say, "My pet depends on me," they are describing something stabilizing. Being needed creates meaning. It gives people a role that is not measured by productivity or success. I matter because someone relies on me. This identity is powerful. Treating a pet like a child often reflects this role, the caregiver identity. This identity provides purpose without competition, worth without hierarchy, value without performance. It is not surprising that people lean into it. There is also the role of emotional expression. Many adults learn to restrain emotion in human relationships. Don't be too sensitive. Don't ask for comfort. Don't show need. With pets, these rules vanish. You can soothe, you can comfort, you can talk softly without explanation. This allows emotional expression to return to a more natural state. When people baby their pets, they are often reclaiming a gentler emotional language, one that feels safe to use. Another key factor is control. In parenting, control is shared with society, schools, cultural expectations, other people's opinions. With pets, control is contained. You make the decisions, You provide care, you see results. This clarity is calming, especially for people who feel powerless in other areas of life. Caring for a pet becomes a space where effort reliably matters. This is psychologically soothing. There is also non-verbal bonding. Pets do not require explanations. They respond to tone, presence, consistency. This creates a bond that bypasses language. For people exhausted by emotional negotiation, this is deeply comforting. You do not need to justify yourself to a pet. You are accepted as you are. This unconditional acceptance resembles the emotional ideal of parenting. Not the reality, but the emotional core. That is why the bond feels so deep. It is not delusion, it is recognition. It is also important to consider cultural shifts. Many adults today delay or choose not to have children, not because they lack love, but because circumstances have changed. Economic pressure, uncertainty, personal priorities. The instinct to nurture does not disappear, it adapts. Pets become a place where that instinct can live without conflict. For some, this is temporary. For others, it becomes central. Neither is pathological. Treating pets like children does not mean treating humans less. Attachment is not a limited resource. People can deeply love pets and still form meaningful human relationships. Often, those who care deeply for animals show high empathy overall. They are not withdrawing from connection. They are practicing it. Of course, there are limits. Healthy attachment respects the nature of the animal, but the emotional impulse behind the behavior is rarely unhealthy. It is rooted in care, consistency, and emotional attunement. When people grieve pets like children, it is because the bond functioned like family, not in role, but in emotional impact. People who treat their pets like their children are not confused. They are responding to something deeply human: the need to nurture, to protect, to be responsible for another life. In a world that often feels unstable and impersonal, pets offer a relationship that feels grounded and emotionally honest. For many, that is not excessive. It is essential. One of the reasons this bond feels so strong is that it provides something many adult relationships no longer offer: emotional clarity. Human relationships are complex. They involve history, misunderstandings, power dynamics, unspoken expectations. Care is often conditional. Affection can be withdrawn. Support can be negotiated. Love can feel uncertain. With pets, emotional signals are simple. Needs are visible. Responses are immediate. Affection is consistent. This simplicity is not childish. It is regulating. The human nervous system responds positively to relationships that are predictable. When people treat pets like children, they are often responding to how clean this emotional exchange feels. There is no manipulation, no passive aggression, no emotional bargaining, just care, response, and presence. This is why many people describe their relationship with pets as pure, not because it is perfect, but because it is uncomplicated. Another key layer is identity. Caring for a pet often becomes part of how people understand themselves. I am someone who looks after another life. This identity is quiet but powerful. It does not rely on external validation. It does not need recognition. It exists in private moments. Feeding, cleaning, checking, worrying. These acts reinforce a sense of responsibility that feels deeply meaningful. In modern life, many people struggle to feel useful. Work can feel abstract. Impact feels distant. Effort is often disconnected from outcome. Caring for a pet restores that connection. You do something. The pet responds. The effect is visible. This makes care feel real. Treating pets like children often reflects this desire for meaningful contribution. Not public, not impressive, just real. Another important factor is emotional repair. For many adults, early experiences of care were inconsistent. Affection may have been conditional, support unpredictable, safety unreliable. Pets offer a chance to experience care without threat. You can give love without fear of rejection. You can show concern without being criticized. You can attach without being hurt by words. For some people, this feels like healing, not because pets fix the past, but because they offer a different emotional experience, one that is safer. This is not regression. It is adaptation. People are not becoming children again. They are learning how care can feel when it is steady. Another reason this bond is misunderstood is social discomfort. Society is uneasy with attachments that don't fit traditional roles. Parent-child relationships are accepted. Romantic partnerships are accepted. But deep bonds with animals challenge categories. They raise questions people are not comfortable answering. Why does this matter so much to them? What does this say about us? Rather than explore those questions, people dismiss the bond. They call it excessive or strange. But strong reactions often signal projection. When someone criticizes people for treating pets like children, they are often reacting to something it stirs in them. Discomfort with vulnerability, fear of dependence, unresolved grief. Caring deeply always carries risk. Pets make that visible. There is also a gendered element. Women are often criticized more harshly for treating pets like children. They are labeled emotional, over-attached, unfulfilled. Men who do the same are often praised as kind or nurturing. This double standard reveals how caregiving itself is judged. Treating a pet like a child challenges norms around who is allowed to nurture deeply. Another overlooked layer is control without dominance. With pets, people experience authority paired with care. You make decisions, but for the pet's well-being. You guide, but do not dominate. This balance is psychologically satisfying. It offers a sense of leadership that is not about power. In many adult contexts, authority feels aggressive or competitive. With pets, authority feels protective. This distinction matters. Treating a pet like a child often reflects comfort with gentle responsibility, not control for ego, but control for care. There is also the question of loss. People who treat pets like children often grieve deeply when they are gone. This grief is sometimes minimized or mocked, but psychologically it makes sense. The bond functioned like family. The routines were shared. The identity was involved. The emotional regulation was real. Grief is proportional to attachment, not social permission. When society fails to recognize that grief, it becomes harder to process. People feel ashamed of their pain. They hide it. They rush healing. This prolongs suffering. Understanding why the bond felt parental helps validate that grief. It was not too much. It was consistent with the relationship. Another misunderstanding is the idea that treating pets like children prevents human connection. In reality, the opposite is often true. People who care deeply for animals often show strong empathy. They are attuned to non-verbal cues, sensitive to vulnerability, patient. These skills translate into human relationships. The bond with pets is not replacing connection. It is rehearsing it. Of course, balance matters. Healthy attachment respects the nature of the animal. But treating a pet like a child emotionally does not mean confusing roles. It means recognizing that care, protection, and responsibility are transferable instincts. Instincts that don't disappear simply because life takes a different shape. People who treat their pets like children are not avoiding adulthood. They are expressing one of adulthood's deepest capacities, the ability to care without being asked. In a world that often rewards detachment, choosing to nurture can look radical. But psychologically, it is deeply grounded. It is not excess. It is expression. At some point, an important question appears. When does treating a pet like a child remain healthy? And when does it become something else? This question matters, not to judge, but to understand boundaries. Healthy attachment does not mean confusion of roles. It means emotional care without denying reality. People who treat their pets like children in a healthy way understand something subtle. The pet is not a human child. But the care they give is very real. The difference lies in intention. Healthy caregiving respects the animal's nature, its limits, its needs. Unhealthy attachment tries to make the pet fill emotional roles it cannot carry. This distinction is not always obvious from the outside. What matters is not how much someone loves their pet, but what the relationship is being used for. Is the bond about connection or avoidance? Is it about care or control? Most people who treat pets like children are not avoiding human relationships. They are supplementing emotional needs in a way that feels safe. They still maintain friendships, work, boundaries. The pet does not replace the world, it enriches it. Problems arise only when the pet becomes the sole source of emotional regulation, when all comfort, identity, and meaning are placed on one relationship. But this is rare, and when it happens, it reflects broader emotional isolation, not love for animals. It is important to separate depth of care from emotional dependency. Deep care is expansive. It allows space for other relationships. Dependency is constricting. It narrows the emotional world. Most people who nurture pets deeply are doing the former, not the latter. Another misunderstood element is anthropomorphism. People often criticize pet owners for humanizing animals, but emotionally relating to animals is not the same as misunderstanding them. Humans naturally project meaning onto what they love. This is not delusion. It is how empathy works. We interpret behavior. We respond emotionally. We connect. As long as the animal's needs are respected, this projection is not harmful. In fact, it often improves care. People who emotionally connect with pets tend to be more attentive, more patient, more responsive. The criticism often says more about discomfort with emotion than about the behavior itself. Another layer worth understanding is grief anticipation. People who treat pets like children often worry about loss long before it happens. They think about aging, illness, mortality. This awareness deepens attachment, but it also increases vulnerability. They know the bond will end, and they choose to love anyway. This is not irrational. It is courageous. Loving anything deeply means accepting impermanence. Pets simply make that impermanence more visible. Another reason society reacts strongly to this bond is that it challenges how value is assigned. Modern culture often ties worth to productivity. Care that does not produce measurable output is seen as excessive. But caregiving has never been about efficiency. It is about presence. Time spent caring for a pet does not look impressive. It does not advance status, but it nourishes something essential. In a world that often rewards emotional distance, choosing closeness can look strange. People who treat their pets like children are often pushing against this cultural current, quietly, without slogans, just by caring. It is also worth noting that for many people, pets are their first experience of being fully responsible for another life. They learn patience, consistency, sacrifice. These experiences shape how they relate to others. They are not trivial, they are formative. For some, this caregiving prepares them for parenting humans. For others, it becomes its own meaningful path. Both are valid. Love does not follow a single script. Another important truth: people do not choose what they care about rationally. Attachment forms through presence, routine, and emotional safety. It is built quietly, over time. No one wakes up one day and decides to treat their pet like a child. It happens because the relationship becomes important, because the bond deepens, because care becomes part of daily life, and one day it simply feels natural. When people judge this bond, they often miss the point. This is not about labels. It is about how humans meet their emotional needs in a changing world. Families look different now. Communities are less stable. Lives are more fragmented. Pets provide continuity. They offer a relationship that is not transactional, one that does not require explanation. For many, that is rare and precious. In the end, people who treat their pets like their children are not confused about reality. They understand the difference between humans and animals. What they are responding to is something deeper: the need to nurture, the need to protect, the need to matter to someone. These needs are universal. They do not disappear with age. They do not require justification. They simply look for a place to belong. For some, that place is family. For others, it is community. For many, it is a small living being that waits at the door every day. None of these choices are lesser. They are different expressions of the same human capacity to care, to commit, to love without guarantee. People who treat their pets like their children are not lost. They are connected. And in a world that often feels detached and unstable, that connection is not excessive. It is meaningful. They don't treat their pets like children because they're confused. They do it because caring is one of the most human things we do, and it always looks for a place to live.